Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Now, listen, today's conversation, we're going to deal with something that I believe is going to be a wonderful conversation. If you are a person that might be going through some form of struggle, or you feel like you're in between the struggle, or you feel like you just don't know how to make it through, today is your type of conversation, because I know the person that I have on today is going to help you not only help you to understand how to get through the struggle, but how to be victorious at the end and live a continual victorious life. So, are you ready for this conversation? Let's dive right on in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Focus on Greatness podcast. My name is Hiram, and on this platform, we highlight ways where men can be able to experience greatness in their everyday lives. And today is one of those beautiful days that I believe that you'll be able to get some experience and some things to help you to be great. Today, I have someone on that it's going to be a wonderful story. I know I tell y'all all the time that I love documentaries. I love learning about people. And this is one of those people that I love, that I have been able to bump into and learn her story. She's a powerful example of how to be victorious, how to be able to push through obstacles to become greater at the end. So do me a favor, all those that are on, make sure that you show some love, put some hearts out there, show some love for Kounthea Richards. How you doing, ma'am?
Hi. Wow. That was like a lovely introduction. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a part. Do me a favor before we get any deeper into our conversation, do me a favor and just introduce yourself to the audience and to those that are listening and watching, so they can kind of get to know you a little bit, and then we'll dive into your story.
Yeah. So like Hiram just introduced me, I'm Kounthea Richards. I am a mom, a wife, a wellness enthusiast, a speaker, and an overcomer. You know, the big reason why I came on this show, because I want to share with you guys, you know, we all go through things in life where it can really set us back in so many ways. And I've gone through many personal struggles. And one of the biggest struggle for me is, you know, overcoming lupus, you know, my journey, you know, the many pitfalls, the many relapses that I've gone through, that instead of allowing those relapses to define me and just break me down, I decided to rise up. I decided to take control of my life and do whatever I could do to get better. So I'm so excited to share with you guys how I beat lupus and how it's so possible for you guys to do the same thing. It doesn't matter where you are in your health journey, or even if it's not related to health. You know, I think it comes down to perspective, and I'm just excited to share with you about what I've done with my personal struggle.
Well, I'm excited, as I already shared with you before we started this conversation on here. I'm excited to be able to have you on, because I believe that your story in and of itself and everything that your story shares helps, no matter who that person is, if it's a health struggle, if it's a life struggle in general, it helps them to be able to understand and know that they can still be victorious. And so let's do this. For those that are watching, those that are listening, let's start from the beginning. Let's tell me about this moment that this struggle occurred, and then we'll walk through this.
Oh yeah. So let me talk to you guys about my journey from my breakdown to my breakthrough, right? And this one, most notably for me, that is recovering from lupus. So what I want to do is just take you guys back to 2013 when it all started. And I want to just kind of paint a picture in your head, you know, just so you can have a comparison of what I went through to now. So then you can say, oh, wow, she's really gone through something, right? So,
Yeah.
so for those of you who don't know what lupus is an autoimmune condition, right? It's when the immune system attacks itself for unknown reason. That's what the doctors told me, right? So for me, it was systemic. So what lupus did was it attacked my kidneys, my brain, my heart, my lungs, my skin, my bones, right? It pretty much kind of attacked almost every organ in my body, you know?
Wow.
And it was really bad. And an analogy that I like to paint for everyone is like, think of like a computer virus, right? Like a Trojan horse on your computer, where once it attacks a certain file, it just keeps attacking and attacking. And then like everything starts to malfunction and nothing is working, right? So for me, that's pretty much what lupus did. I couldn't, I was really sick. I couldn't, my body didn't want to cooperate with me with anything, you know? It was so bad to the point where, you know, when it comes to daily movements, like walking, I couldn't even walk. My hip, my left hip, I was in pain. I couldn't even brush my teeth, you know, because I couldn't hold on to the toothbrush because of the joint pain. So, you know, think about, I couldn't even like, even the thought of being happy or trying to be grateful because I'm still alive, right? That was even hard to take in because it was so much for me. And then when it came to eating, you know, even eating healthy foods for me, my body was just rejecting it. It was just, you know, I was worried, depressed. Let's just put it that way. You know, it was really hard. But I also know that what was even more painful for me was, you know, I was also a new mom, you know, it was just a very hard time for me because I wanted to be there for my daughter, for her, for every first experience in her life, right? Yeah. But I couldn't be there because my body wasn't functioning the way it should be. I was too tired. I was too sick. I was too, you know, I couldn't even have a conversation because mentally I wasn't there. I checked out. And when you're at that point in your life, you just start to think, you know, is this really worth it? You know, at that moment in time, I felt like a complete failure in motherhood and in life. And the feedback that I was getting from the doctors were, you know, you're just going to have to deal with it. You know, this is pretty much what lupus patients go through, you know, just deal with it, right? So you can imagine, you know, here I am, okay, a new mom. You know, I was diagnosed with lupus during my second trimester. So you can imagine the pregnancy in itself was like, whoa, like here I am, I'm hit with the pregnancy, having to deal with all these symptoms. And now I get hit with this like debilitating autoimmune condition. So, you know, it's hard. It's even hard to grasp that, my gosh, this is my reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I was in a really bad place, but thank God I had a loving husband, a husband who was doing everything that he could. He was playing doctor, he was playing researcher, he was playing a nutritionist, a mom, a dad, whatever you want, a caretaker, right?
Yeah.
He was wearing different hats to make sure that he can get his wife back up and running. And, you know, I think he is one of the reasons that I am here today because of his persistent of, we can do this, we can do this. Yeah. So that leads me into that something's got to change, right? Like I had because I was really, really, really angry, you know? I was angry for so many reasons. Like, why me? Why did I have to deal with this diagnosis during my pregnancy? You know, I thought I was supposed to be this happy, like in cloud nine kind of person, you know, because I just had a baby, you know? So I wanted to kind of put this out there because I think this is really important, especially for anyone who's dealing with any sort of health crisis. What I did early on in this diagnosis is I started to implement changes to what I was eating. And I think that in itself is paramount. And what I mean by that is that start, you know, taking an audit of what you're eating, because a lot of the symptoms that you're feeling, you're experiencing is because you're not consuming foods that are nourishing for your body. And we didn't find that out until or I didn't find that out until, my husband started doing the research and he realized, wait, hold up, we do have some sort of control here because, foods, depending on what you're eating, plays a big role on how you feel, right?
Wow.
So I started implementing smoothies right away. Like I think after maybe I want to say like the 3rd month after diagnosis, that was during my pregnancy, I started to drink a lot of smoothies. I started drinking green smoothies. And then shortly thereafter, I started to change my diet right away. And I want to tell people this because this is so important. And it's important because for me, what it did for me was there was an increase of about 45 to 50% of symptom relief after I start introducing these diet changes.
Wow.
And yeah, so, and I also want to preface by saying that everyone is different. So what I've eliminated may work or may not work for you. So what I also did was I worked with a functional medicine doctor. I had a food sensitivity test done to make sure that, I wasn't allergic or sensitive to certain foods that was creating this sort of like immune system intolerance, if you want to call it, So there are many factors in all of this, but I just want to put it out there because I want people to know how important it is to change what you're consuming, because that in itself is a game changer for me. Had I not started the diet change by removing inflammatory foods, like, for me, it was the gluten, the dairy, the white sugar, the processed foods, I made sure those things were not in my diet, and I did a lot of diet modification, but that in itself wasn't just enough. There are other components to it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm driving the food component to you and to everyone who's listening is because I want people to understand the importance of just changing what you're eating can do a lot for your health. That's so important. That's what really took me like to not 100%. It took me like maybe to 60, 65, even 70%. There are other things involved in it as well. But I want people to understand that, when it comes to health related, and this is what really got me thinking when I started doing some research is that, there are a lot of studies out there, right? And one of the studies that really sort of left an imprint in my head was where, about 10% of chronic illnesses are due to genetic, right? And 90% are due to environmental factors. And when I read that statistic, it just dawned on me like, wait, 90% is due to environmental factors, right? So that means this is not my story, right? This is not the end, right? So, and that was kind of like a wake-up call for me because I realized how much control I have to get better.
Yeah.
And I know it's challenging, and I understand it because I was once there. I used to play the why me victim mentality mindset, right? Thinking like, this is it. I'm just going to internalize what my doctor is telling me and take their prognosis as my health outcome.
Yeah.
But when you come across statistic as what I was saying and hearing other people's stories like myself, I want people to really take this in and realize that it is possible. I'm not the first who have, overcame, an autoimmune disease. There are many before me. I just want people to really take this in and see that it is possible. But you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision and be committed to the decision to get better. And that's what I did in my recovery story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just boils down to perspective for me. You got to also change who you are being as well, not just change what you're eating. Because for me, my lowest point was I realized that despite the diet change, despite, getting enough rest and trying to exercise as well, I knew that I had to really change how I was looking at this diagnosis. I had to reframe it and tell myself that, I have to stop being angry because I was very angry, so angry. And that in itself is not good for your health, right?
Yeah, right.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
So getting my mind right was really what really took it off. It's like my change, the the perspective change, the shift in how I was seeing this diagnosis really helped a lot. And I think this is applicable to anything in life, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you're going through in life, the health crisis is just an experience, right? The breakup is just an experience. The financial loss is just an experience, right? But what I've learned in my own experience is it's just something for you to go through. It's just a season, right?
Yeah.
Something I believe that God has put me through to build my character, to build my resilience. And when I started to realize that that was what it was, just a season, that this is going to pass as well. This is when everything in my life started to change, by the grace of God. I'm at a different place now because I don't feel like, that I have to do everything on my own, because I have this amazing, mighty, almighty, powerful anchor that I can resort to now,
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So it's just so powerful when you allow yourself to, when you open yourself to the support, to knowing that you're not in this alone. So having a support system is another element that I believe that anyone who's dealing with any type of challenges, that you should be open and talk about it and let people know that, I need help.
Right. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. It's and that's something I just learned honestly, last year because of COVID, because I'm sure COVID, open up our eyes in so many ways.
A whole lot of people's eyes. Yes.
Yes. And for me, it was just like, wow, like, Kounthea, you got to let go of this self-reliance mentality, right? That you can't do everything on your own. And once you let go of that and you just surrender, in a way, surrender doesn't mean you're weak. Surrender means you're strong. That's resilient right there, because you're allowing yourself to be open to the help and support, right?
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that. And then COVID hit and I realized I can't do this, and I lean into my support system. And even more importantly, like now, I feel like my relationship with God has strengthened because of this, because I realized that I need him. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I think when people come to this place where you can't do this alone, all the pressure, right?
Yeah.
The weight that you're carrying on your shoulder disappear. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
It's a different take now. And I think this is what reset my health, in a sense. Like, this changed everything. So now I just look at things differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this because there's a couple keys that I took out just listening now. And for those that are listening as well, I pray that you're hearing. You might not hear exactly what I'm hearing, but I know that you're hearing something that is helping you. But so far, I've taken from your story the struggle in and of itself. Not only when it happened, I think when all of this started is probably one of the most interesting portions of the story, because it happened, like you said, in a moment. Normally when you're excited and you're celebrating, you about to have your baby, and and in the same timing of when this is happening, all this other new stuff is happening all at once. And so hearing that part by itself, I know is added stress, not just the symptom in the sickness in and of itself, but now this sickness, which is stressful by itself, now adding on to, I'm about to have a baby, and probably all the things that you were probably thinking in your mind of moments that you probably won't be able to enjoy like you wanted to, or like you probably dreamed. But in all of that, the thing that I took from this is that you had a great support team, which I give shout outs to your husband. You had a great support team. So for that one, just dealing with this piece, if anybody that is listening, any person that is watching is going through anything, one of the anchor helps is having a strong support system. Is having a support system that knows how to be able to help to carry you through when
Yeah.
you're going through. And so that's one of the things I heard, even when you were talking about your husband being able to really be everything that was needed in that season, as
Yes.
much as he possibly could,
Yes.
is that aspect of him being everything, being the
Mhm.
support that helped to carry you through
Yes.
this journey.
Right.
But then I love that you as you research, one of the things you said you researched and you found out the statistics of this scenario. I love this statement. You said 90%
Mm.
of it is environmental. So for me, that speaks volume, just like you stated, is I have more control than I think I do.
Yes.
So that means for me, that means the struggle doesn't have as much control as it thinks it does.
Yes.
And sometimes even probably how it feels like it did. I
Mm-hmm.
know you probably going through it, you probably did feel like, okay, this is too much.
Oh, yeah.
This, that I can't take this pain like this anymore. Or probably had moments of where you thought to yourself, what type of future is this going to be? But I love that even in the midst of going through everything you were going through, you still chose to have a change of perspective.
Yes.
You still had your relationship with God became stronger,
Yes.
which I believe is a very big key in this whole puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe even in that moment, even in the things, your relationships with God, your support system that you had, all of these things helped to then change your perspective.
Yes,
And
definitely.
now we are on this other side because of a change perspective. And I think that's powerful that just this one major component can change so much.
Yeah.
Just that change of perspective can change and shift so much.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it is? I think this struggle, this particular struggle, which is the diagnosis, I think it took so much out of me because um I've always been like this very much like high achiever, like empowered. I can do this
Mhm.
on my own. I got this. I don't need anyone help. Even when I got married, I was also
Mm.
really independent in a way where I got this. I can do this, right?
Yeah.
And I tell you now, and I'm laughing because, God was humbling me when he put me through all of this. He knew that he need to set me straight, right?
Right.
And looking back now, I laugh because I realized like, wow, I was very, I guess you wouldn't, I think I can say the word arrogant. I was kind of
Mhm.
very like, yeah, I got this. Nothing, I'm unstoppable or
Right.
unbreakable, right? Then
Yeah.
he put this in my life. It's like, no, 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 honey, no, no, this is not going to happen. So I'm laughing because it's through that experience, that season, that my change in character,
Mm.
there was a transformation. Like I think I want to say it in a way where you just it's very humbling,
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, I realized that these things, the struggles that you go through are really just experiences, right? It's really what you take from it, right? It's
Mhm.
the meaning,
Mhm.
the association that you put in that experience that can really, make you or break you. And
Yeah.
I realized for me that if I don't change my perspective, I'm going to constantly go through this healing loop. I'm going to get better and fall into a relapse, get better
Mm.
and fall into a relapse because that was pretty much what I was going through. And it was so hard for
Mhm.
me. I would get better and then boom, I would like fall on the wayside. And why was that? It was because I was so angry. I was still angry. I was still holding on to that. Why me? Why did this happen? Because my plans pretty much got derailed, right? Like I couldn't do the things I wanted to
Yeah.
do.
Right.
And I was very frustrated and resentful. And in that same moment, I realized, how am I supposed to lead by example for my daughter?
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
don't come to this place of gratitude in a way where I need to start seeing this experience that I'm going through as
Mm.
a lesson. Like,
Yeah.
what am I taking out of this? And I thank God for this lupus diagnosis, because of that diagnosis, I'm this person now. I'm very conscious now,
Mhm.
I can say like I'm a conscious consumer now. Like, I make sure that what we're consuming, what we're putting in our body is not gonna make me sick. I'm not gonna say that I can avoid everything, right? But
Mhm.
I do the
Mhm.
best that I can to minimize my exposure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this in itself, you can either look at this diagnosis as,
Mm.
as a setback, right? Or an
Yeah.
opportunity for growth. And I chose to see it differently. I chose to write a different story despite what the doctors were telling me. I say,
Mm.
no, listen, I'm going to write my own ending. I'm going to
Mm.
choose and I'm going to decide that I will get better. And that's it. And once I made that decision back in 2017, the end of 2017,
Mhm.
that was it. I was committed and I did whatever it took. I prayed and prayed. I say, Lord, I'll do whatever that's required me to get better. I'll do it. At
Yeah.
one point, I was like, I'll eat dirt if it makes me feel better, right? So I was at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
get it. Yeah.
when and that's just it. And I want to drive this home because, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I go back and forth being indecisive. Like, yeah, I'm just
Mhm.
gonna put one foot in. I'll do a little bit of changes, but that's about it. I just put like maybe 80%. That's good enough.
Mhm.
No, when it comes to something that's like your well-being, your health, you gotta be committed, and you gotta make a decision that you want to get better.
Yeah.
And that's what sets people back. We're so busy being in this indecisive mode that we don't make a decision. And when you
Yeah.
don't make a decision, you're like in a rocking chair, going back and forth, back and forth. And I knew that I hit that psychological threshold back in 2017.
Mhm.
And I was like, I had enough. I had enough of people telling me, this is your life, this is what you got to do, and all this other story. And I was like, no, I'm committed now. I want to make this change because I want to be there for my daughter. I want to be there for her, her preschool moments, her kindergarten moments. I didn't
Yeah.
want someone else to raise my daughter. And
Yeah.
she was that that carrot that was dangling. I was like, I'm going to get better, not just
Mm,
for
mm, mm,
myself,
mm.
but for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that in itself is powerful because you're no longer thinking about yourself anymore. You have this
Right.
human being that you have to make sure you stay well for. So
Yeah.
she was she was the driving force for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those that are listening, I want you to think about this. Surely if you are a person that are going through any form of struggle, your struggle might not be just a health struggle. You might be going through a financial struggle. You might be going through a relational struggle. Whatever your struggle might be, ask yourself, is it worth staying where you are?
Mm.
Ask yourself, can I surely if you have children, surely if you have people, which we all do in some sense, have someone that is looking up to you, ask yourself, would you want them to stay there? Because sometimes we can be going through our own struggles and our own thing, and we can get wrapped up in the pain and the issue and the struggle that we're going through. And we don't realize that there are other people watching you go through it. There's
Mm.
other people sitting there with you while you're
Mm.
going through your own struggle, and they're watching how you're going to respond, how you're reacting in your own struggle. And so ask yourself, is it worth staying where you are?
Mm.
Or would you rather, for their sake, even at this point, if you can't do it for yours, would you rather, for their sake, push through?
Mm.
Would you rather, for their sake, push through to be able to show them this is how you make it through a journey? This is how you make it through pain. This is
Mm.
how you make it through a struggle. And I love that you decided to make a statement within your own self that if I can't do it for me, I'm going to make sure I do it for my baby. I'm
Mm.
going to make sure that I'm going to push through so that then my baby can see this is how you do it.
Yes.
Oh, mommy,
Yes.
how did you make it through this? Oh,
Yes.
how did you do? Oh, I did this for you. It wasn't, I wanted to, you were my end. I
Mm,
think one of the things in scripture, Jesus talks about it, where he says he was able to make it through the cross because he saw who he was saving on the other side.
mm,
So
mm,
it's like we can go through the pain when we look at, okay, who are we actually going through
mm.
this for?
Yes. Yes.
And so I love
Yeah.
that. I love seeing your story. Again, you said I did this. I wasn't I wanted to be there for my daughter. I wanted to be there for my baby so I could be able to experience all the things that she was going to experience so I couldn't die here.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Yes,
Yeah. I
100.
love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think when we're going through moments like this, trying times, I think we have to try to stay on top of the story that's
Mm,
playing, right? We got to
yeah.
learn to stay on top of it, and not be in it. And we're human, so we're gonna experience the emotions, and because we're in it, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes just becoming the observer of what's going on can make a big difference. And
Yeah.
I've learned that. And I'm just like, something has got to change,
Yeah.
really, that's really what it is. And, in all of this, it was just getting my mind right. I just
Mhm.
kind of wrapping my head around like, this is just temporary. And
Yeah.
now I see things as it's temporary. Like I don't allow things that are stressful. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still experience stress and
Mhm.
anxiety like a normal person, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just that I don't allow it to hold a space in my head for too long. I don't.
Mhm.
I do the best that I can not to take it into the next day. I pray on it. I talk to my husband. I
Mhm.
don't just let it sit there and marinate. And I think
Right.
sometimes we have to come to a place, just what you mentioned, like earlier. Is it worth it
Yeah.
to put yourself in this situation? So for me, I ask that often too. Like, is it worth it, stressing over this job or
Mm.
stressing because I couldn't do certain things? No, it's not worth it. It's not worth my well-being.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a very important question to ask yourself.
And I think that that's a portion that helps you to overcome.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been through life pain,
Yeah.
not just life pain. We've all had ups and downs.
Yeah.
But it's that question of, is it worth it? Is it worth,
Mm.
not just is it worth going through it? I love that you said that you made up your mind that I'm going to learn from it.
Yes.
That's one of the things I make sure I try to share with people when I'm talking to them about if they're going through a struggle or if they, what lesson is this teaching?
Mm.
You might be
Mm.
going through it, and I get it, and I understand that it's painful. You don't like it. It doesn't feel good. I get
Mm-hmm.
all of that because a struggle. I never known a person that said a struggle felt good.
Yeah. Right.
So I understand that it doesn't feel good, but there is something that is being taught while
Mm.
you're in it.
Yes.
And learning that lesson, being able to pull out that lesson. I think one of the things for me is when I recognize, like you said, pull yourself back and be able to take yourself out of the situation for a minute
Yeah.
and be able to then learn from or see what lesson is this teaching me.
Yeah.
And then when I figure out the lesson, it's like, oh, okay, we can beat this. I'm about to pass this
Yeah.
test.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and get through this.
Yes.
We can get to the other side.
Right.
And so I think that's great. That's a very powerful understanding is making sure that you don't live in the pain,
Mm.
but you learn from it.
Oh, yes.
You don't live in the pain, but you learn from it. And so I want to ask this question: as you had changed your mind, you had changed your perspective, you had now made a determination that I'm not going to stay in this place, and I'm going to make sure that I overcome or go through this pain for my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Again, even if I can't do it for me, I'm gonna do it for
Yeah.
my baby.
Yeah.
You have made a determination. What feel? Because you're still in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Life had not shifted. Only
Yeah.
thing had changed was your mind.
Yeah.
What was that like, trying to then build that momentum of change to get to where we are today?
You know, that's a very good question. And it was a constantly tug of war for me, But I
Okay.
think what took me to that part of just I had enough was when I didn't mention this to you, but that's really what changed the trajectory of my health outcome was, you
Hmm.
know, I had a miscarriage,
Oh,
and that was back in
wow.
2017. And, I think a lot of it came from the emotional stress that I was, or let's put it this way, the perception around the lupus diagnosis. I felt
Hmm.
defeated. I
Yeah.
felt angry. I was very
Mm.
resentful. I was bitter. That bitter led to the rejection of myself. I was
Yeah.
bitter that I had to do the work to recover, right? I was bitter that I had to ask for support. Remember, I told you early on that
Mm.
I was all about I can do this myself. I wasn't
Hmm.
willing, but I had to. But I knew that I needed the support system, and unknowingly, that rejection, that bitterness led to rejecting a possibility of a new life when I
Mm.
suffer from this miscarriage,
Mm.
and that was my breakdown. That
Wow.
loss was my breakthrough, because it was that moment in time when I sat up on the hospital bed when the doctor told me it was it.
Mm.
That's when I knew that, wow, that was it. I knew at that moment that I had to change my perspective to create a new
Wow.
outcome, to create
Mm.
a new
Mm. Mm. Mm.
possibility for myself. Because I was sick and tired of people telling me this is it. And then when you have someone tell you that this being, this being that was once inside of you is gone, it's like, wow, I need to
Mm.
change my way of thinking. So that was it.
Wow.
And that's where the moment and that hunger to realize that I needed to be there for my daughter, the one who's still here, for Bella. That
Yeah.
was that she was the momentum, because I realized that
Wow.
this loss that I experienced, I'm still grateful that God has still blessed me with this one who was 4 years old at that time, that I had to
Wow.
be strong and I had to keep going. I had to push through.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
that in
Mm.
itself was the lesson for me. The pain that was taken, the loss was my pain, but the
Yeah.
lesson from it was even more profound for me, because I've learned to be present. I learned that I needed to push through this. I learned that I had to make this change so I can be healthier for
Yeah.
not just for myself, but be healthy for my daughter, so she can say, oh my gosh, mommy has the energy to play with me, so I can
Mm.
feed my daughter nourishing foods and not something
Mm.
that's going to deteriorate her health in some way or shape or form. Like,
Yeah.
I knew that was my momentum. It was that
Mm.
breakdown. That breakdown was really the pivotal moment in my life that I say I had enough,
Mm. 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 Mm.
and that was
Yeah.
it. And I became committed, and I
Yeah.
made sure that every action that I took from that moment on would build on and strengthen my biology, my health. And that was it. And, I think when you make a decision and you stay committed to what you decided on, you just keep it going. And for me, when I would hit a wall, I pray. I was
Mhm.
like, Lord, I can't do this, but I need to get through this. And that's it.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
surrendering.
Wow.
That's saying that I can't do this. I need your help. Guide me.
Yeah.
That's why, asking for the support or just leaning in on something that is higher, it's more powerful than you,
Mhm.
is sort of like it's the North Star. That's your guiding system. Like,
Yeah.
this is how I was able to navigate, because I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew at that time was I'm fed up. I'm done with this story. I'm done with their story.
Mm.
Let me write a different one. I
Mm.
didn't know how I was going to write it, but I say, Lord, I've decided I'm going to get better. It doesn't matter what the cost is. And once you make that decision, he paves the way for you. He makes it
Mm.
happen.
Mm.
He
Mm. Mm.
provides. And that's
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, the momentum that I needed. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that I had to lose a life to
Mhm.
realize this. But again, like what you say, what do you take from the experience? The
Yeah.
experience is just an experience. It's a season. It's temporary. But what's going to make or break you is what you take from it. And it's permanent because it's that change in character, that transformation that you're going to take with you. That's what's going to sustain you through what's coming next.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was it for me.
I'm loving this. I think I could continue to listen to your story.
You took it out of me. I was thinking in my head how deep, but then I realized that, it can help someone. It's not about me. It's about how can my story serve as an entry point to getting better, whether it's getting better for your health, whether it's moving on to a different relationship, whether it's starting all over again. I want my story to be an entry point for someone to say, wow, I do have the power to overcome this.
Yeah.
And you do. You really do.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So I want to say it's a major statement that you said, and you said, I'm not going to allow them to write this script for me. I'm not going to allow them to write this story, but I'm going to choose to write my own. So the question that I ask all those that are listening, I want you to really think about this. If you had an opportunity to write your own script, from this point on, what would that look like? And then how would you live in your script? But we're not talking about play acting. We're not talking about just, I'm talking about rewriting your life from this point forward and allowing, like you did, allowing whatever pain that I'm going through at this present time to be my catalyst to get me to where I want to go.
Yes.
And so I'm so thankful that you opened yourself up and allowed us to be able to hear your story. I want you to do, before we go, I want you to do me a favor. Allow people to know where you are and how you are today. Because we've walked through your story, we've walked through your pains, we walked through all of these different obstacles. You've given us tools, you've given us mindset shifts, you've given us making sure we have a support system, the humility that God has brought you into in the midst of this, to understand that we can't do this thing called life by ourselves. But where are you today?
Yeah, so I can say I'm good. I'm 100% symptom free.
Wow.
And I've been able to sustain this. It's because, remember going back to that statistic, right? The 90%. That's why I say it's very possible. You just have to be committed. And it's not it's not a trend where you just hop on and get back off. It's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
That's stay committed to it. And over time, it just become a natural thing. So I'm good. I feel great. My doctor is like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because, of course they don't want to say, you're cured, right? But I feel good. I feel really good. I'm at a different place in my life. I'm, my mission right now is just to spread this way of thinking where, I want people to understand that, your circumstances doesn't have to define you. You can break out of it. You can write a different script, like you mentioned, right? We can, we do have the power, but it boils down to your perspective. And when you're able to allow yourself to receive the help, right? Help from your support system, help from God, this is when everything in your life become restored, because that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I just look at life in a very different way now. If the impact doesn't affect my health, my family, then I'm good. I don't let that whole space in anywhere in my head or in my heart. And it's easier said than done. But then when you realize that the anchor that you're leading on is God, and He's the one that's leading, you're following, then you're good.
Right.
It can't mess you up. You're kind of like, okay, I'm grateful. Thank you. So I'm 100% good right now, and I'm at a great place. And my mission really is just to spread the story and just to provide hope and inspiration that your joy Your triumph doesn't have to come from, you know, it's not about the circumstances, right? It's
Yeah.
about what you take from it. And that's like the biggest takeaway that I want to put out there. It's
Yeah.
really what do you take from this experience? You know,
Yeah.
just like season, it too shall pass. And that's just really what I want to tell people.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you came on this platform to make sure that you tell us,
Thank you.
because sometimes surely out of the season we just all came out of,
Mm.
um, it's so refreshing to be able to hear that it's only a season.
Mm.
It's
Yes.
so refreshing to know that you can still make it through.
Yes.
It's so refreshing to hear that the only thing you got to do is just learn the lessons. Make
Mm.
up your
Yes.
mind
Yes.
that this is not the end.
Right.
And so, again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Thank you so much for blessing this audience of people, so they can be able to learn and to hear your story. So for all those that are listening and you want to be able to learn more about her story and be a part of her journey, you can be able to get her information. It's going to be in the description, and you can be able to go to her website, check her out, follow her. She has a very powerful story, and she is helping thousands of people, being able to overcome and walk through and get through these journeys. And again, I say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be able to learn some things that we need to be able to know and to learn to get through our own stories. And today I'll say, I'm going to rewrite mine. I'm going to rewrite mine. I'm going to pull some books out. I'm going to get in my own little journal. And I'm going to write down how I want my story to be from this point on,
Yes.
and then start living it out. So
Yes.
again, thank you for that. Before we go, I told you already that I was going to ask you this question. I ask everyone that comes onto the platform. So I'm going to ask you this one. I love this question personally. And so this question is, what's greatness to you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to circle back to this. And I think I'm going to keep it short and simple because I
Okay.
think this speaks volume. Greatness to me is not allowing the circumstances to define who I am.
Mm.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Circumstances, and that's what I want to leave it at. It's just that's short and simple.
It's short and simple, but it's helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's
Thank you.
pop. Do not allow. I'm not going to allow my circumstances.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do it.
I think what it is that I think sometimes we read into we tend, like for me, you read into the situation too much that you complicate things. And I like to make it as simple as possible. Greatness is really that simple.
Yeah.
You become great when you don't allow things to define you, when you don't take on other people's narrative. And that's greatness in itself. So here you go.
Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
again, for all those that are listening, before we go, I do want to make sure I say this. This has been a very great conversation. And I pray that what you have heard is helping you in your season. And that through this conversation, I don't take anything by accident. So I pray that through this conversation, that you are able to make up your mind and say, I'm not going to stay where I'm at, but I'm about to rewrite my history. And I'm not going to allow, I love this part. I promise you, I'm going to probably live this for the rest of this week. And with this concept, I promise you I will. I'm not going to allow other people's statistics to define what my story is supposed to be.
Yes.
And so I'm grateful that you did not allow people to limit you and hinder you and stop you and hold you into a box, but you have been someone that has overcome. And I say thank you for being an overcomer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
family, we thank y'all for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of the Focus on Greatness family. And remember, we are here every first and third Monday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I love you all, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.